Good morning. Happy Thursday. It is Template Thursday with Tracy, and we are doing card designing. So in our annual catalog, if you've been following along in our annual catalog, on page 22, at the bottom here, and all on page 22, there is a whole section on card design. And there is inspiration and all kinds of fun to spark your creativity. So every single week we have been and will continue to go through on Thursdays all of the different card templates that are listed here, and I will give you all the measurements. They aren't listed in the catalog, but if you tune in each week, I will give you all the different measurements to create all of these 22 fun templates. And then what I am personally doing with them, like I showed you before, is I have our card keeper kit box, and I actually just keep each of my card templates in here. So as we make them, I have all the measurements right inside, and then when I need some card inspiration and I'm like, oh, what should I make with this or that, I can flip through my template box and just be able to be inspired. I am so visual, and so if you're like me and you have all these sticky notes with measurements laying all around, by the time I get back to looking at them, I'm like, what does this mean? So my visual template box is so helpful because I can just pull it out and the measurements are right there, and I can visually see what that template will look like. So we've already done template 1 and 2 in the catalog. I just numbered them so we could go in order. And so today we're going to be doing template number 3 in here. So if you're following along, if you missed any, you can go back on my blog at stampinqueenbee.com and search for Technique Thursdays, and all the videos are there, or listed on my YouTube channel at Stampin' Queen Bee, and those are listed in the playlist for Template Thursdays as well. So you can always go back and see any that you missed. So the paper that I'm going to be using today is from the Perennial Lavender collection. I love this paper. I love that it uses crumb cake and all of these bright and beautiful, the gorgeous grape and some Highland Heather in there, and fresh freesia, and there's the Lost Lagoon, the pretty Lost Lagoon, and pretty peacock and white. It's just beautiful. So we're going to be using that. So let me pull up our supplies. So we're going to need a card base. So this is just basic white. And this base we're actually going to use to open the tall way, right? Normally our normal cards open left to right, and so this one's going to open from bottom to top. So in order to do this, you're just going to take your 8.5 by 11 cardstock. You're going to cut it in half at 4 1/4 on the short, with the short side at the top, and then you're going to score it at 5 1/2, and that will create your card base opening this way. So you still get 2 card bases out of your 1 sheet of paper. So we've got our base there. You're going to need some type of thread or twine. So today I'm going to use the linen thread. You're going to need 3 strips of paper, and so they can be all the same. So this is from that Perennial Lavender. So 3 of those. And you're going to need a focal piece. And so here are the measurements for all of this. So you need your 3 strips here. Those are 1 1/8 inches by 5 inches. So you need 3 of those. You need your card base, and then you need some thread or twine. And then your focal piece can be any shape or size. It could be a square, it could be a punch out, it could be a die cut, it could be anything. Today I'm going to use circles to show you how to do this, but go ahead and take a screenshot of all of the pieces and the measurements that you'll need for today's template. And then we will get started. So let me show you an example of what this will look like. So here is one that I did with crumb cake as the base, We've got our sentiment stamped on there, thinking of you. For this one, I used the same perennial lavender paper, and I used all three in the same pattern. And then we've got our linen thread here, and of course some bling. And then when we open it up, that would be the inside of it. So remember, no naked insides, right? So you always want to stamp a sentiment or an image, something in there so that it's not just a plain inside. So that is how our card is going to look at the end. Another example of it is this one here. So if you were following me all week for our Technique Tuesday, we did some splattering. And so this is a splattered piece of basic white that I used with the Stampin' Spritzer. And then once it dried, I just cut that paper into these 3 strips and was able to make this card with that. So you can use something that you stamped, you can use something that you splattered, you can use some designer series paper, you could emboss some cardstock and use 3 pieces like that. Many, many options for today's card. So let me show you how I create this. Let's move all this out of the way. We've got our card base here, and we've got our 3 strips. So on the first card I showed you, it was all the same. It was all the same design that I just did in a row, kind of like that. This is a great template for using up our scraps, right? So if you have extra little strips lying around, this is a great way to create that. On this one, we're going to use them different. So you can flip them. Great thing about designer paper, right, is we can flip them. So we could do something like that where we have, you know, these 2 the same. We could flip this one so that we had kind of that fun green pattern. I kind of like that. Or we could have all 3 different patterns and create the card like that. So there are really a lot of options with this kind of a design, right? So I think I'm going to flip this back. I really love this pattern. I think it's so beautiful. So how I like to line these up is I cut all my pieces here, and then I like to kind of just place them so that I can see the spacing, because you want it to be kind of even the whole way, right? And with this card, it might even be easier to open it flat just so that while we're gluing, right? So I like to glue the left, then the right, and then the middle, so then I can get my middle spacing even. But I will just go ahead and add some liquid adhesive glue to our first strip here. And then I want equal parts on the top, the left, and the bottom, as close as you can get to that. And the green glue gives you a little wiggle room to be able to move it up or down as needed, right? I'm gonna leave this middle one. I'm not gonna adhere that one yet. I'm gonna grab my right piece. And when I do it this way, I have found that my spacing comes out a lot better than when I try to go left to right, because then this one might be too close and then I have a lot of space at the end, you know, like that. So I just kind of like to, and I'm just looking for this here to match this here. And then again, for my top and right and bottom to all be kind of similar. So we're just lining that up. Looks good. Now I will take that middle piece, add my adhesive, and then be able to evenly space that in the middle. So we'll just add our liquid adhesive there. And then for this one, I'm just looking for left and right to be even spacing top and bottom, right? So now they match and they're all lined up, and that is kind of the background that we've created using those strips. Easy, right? So now I'm gonna flip this the other way. I'm gonna take my linen thread, and for this, we're going to hold my linen thread here. Opposite, I'm sorry. Okay, so we're gonna take our linen thread, had to think there, and we're just going to wrap this around 3 times. upside down here. And then I'm gonna take it and tie it in a knot through what's already here. So this will kind of hold it all together. So 3 times around and then a knot so that it's got all of those pieces together. Then we're gonna just take, while it's on the spool, and we're gonna tie an easy shoestring bow. Notice I'm doing this upside down because the tails then will be pointed towards the bottom. And then at this point, I'm just gonna adjust my loops so that they are even and tight and that it looks just how I want. I'm gonna grab my ribbon, designated ribbon scissors there, and we've got our tied around bow. We're almost done. This template is really easy. Okay, so I'm using a circle now for what would be for our sentiment. So I'm just gonna put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the top of whatever shape that I'm using and the bottom, but I'm gonna leave the middle open. And that's gonna go over and kind of hold our thread in place. So let me just peel off the backs here of our dimensionals. And I'm gonna stick this, so remember, that middle part that's got nothing is going over this. So we can stick this right down. And that is our card template. How easy peasy, right? Good morning, Avril. So with our one we created, remember we're using 3 even strips. Great way to use up our scraps. And those are all 1 1/8 inches by 5 inches. We've got I used linen thread today, but you could use any thread or even a baker's twine. And then our focal image or our focal piece can be any shape or any size. It could be a smaller circle, a bigger circle, it could be a square or anything in between. And then again, here are the examples that I shared with you earlier to give you an idea. So this circle is a bigger circle. This one is what I would call like a medium-sized circle, and then we have our smaller circle. So lots of options with this template number 3. So stay tuned next week for template number 4, and we will just keep building our template box of ideas to spark our creativity, to give us some inspiration, and to give us a visual of what we can create. So have a great Thursday, everyone, and I'll see you guys soon.